The sky was dark, like ink spread across an endless void. No stars, no moon, and only silence. The wrecked human ship lay broken among glowing blue trees that hummed like quiet machines. Inside the wreckage, a man slowly opened his eyes. His name was Evan Cole, a cargo pilot from Earth. Smoke filled his lungs as he coughed and unbuckled his seatbelt. Sparks danced around him. His radio was dead. His helmet cracked. Oxygen was leaking. "Not how I wanted to die," he whispered, his voice weak but calm. He grabbed a small flashlight from the control panel. The air outside looked strange, and soft blue mist floating like it had a mind of its own. He stepped out of the broken door, boots sinking into warm, glowing grass. The plants gave off a faint hum when he touched them, as if they were alive and listening. Evan turned his head. In the distance, he saw faint lights, flickering like moving lanterns. Rescue beacons, he thought. His heart filled with hope. Maybe his distress signal worked after all. He began walking toward them, one step at a time. But the lights were not beacons. They were eyes. The shapes moved between the glowing trees, tall, thin figures with silver armor that shone faintly in the mist. They didn't make a sound, yet he could feel their gaze. One of them raised a strange metallic rod. A sharp hum filled the air. Before Evan could react, a blinding flash hit the ground beside him, burning a hole through the glowing soil. He dropped to his knees, rolling behind a fallen log. "Hey, I'm not your enemy," he shouted. But the air swallowed his voice. Then a new light appeared, brighter, steadier, and moving toward him. The other figures stepped back and lowered their weapons. From the fog came a being unlike the others. She was tall and graceful, her armor shaped like flowing silver liquid. Her face was half covered by a dark visor that glowed faintly from within. The way she moved was quiet, almost too perfect, like she was made of air and thought. Evan froze. She looked at him and tilted her head, studying him as if he was an object from another time. Then her voice came, soft, layered with metallic echo. "You are not supposed to exist here, human." Evan blinked, trying to make sense of what he was hearing. You speak English?" The figure paused, her head tilting again. "Your language is simple. I learned it from your mind." That answer made him take a step back. "From my mind? How?" She raised a hand and he stopped talking. "You fell from the sky. No stars burn above, yet you came through the silence. Explain." Evan looked around, still shaking. "My ship malfunctioned. I lost control. Crashed here. I don't even know where here is." She looked down at the cracked soil, then back at him. "This world has no name for you. We call it Vareth Prime. No human has ever walked on it." "Guess I'm the first," Evan said, forcing a weak smile. Something changed in her tone, just a flicker, almost emotion. "First, and maybe last." She turned and gestured to the armored figures behind her. "Take him." Two of the guards moved closer. Evan lifted his hands. "Wait. I'm not dangerous." The female figure studied his face for a long moment, then gave a small motion with her hand. The guard stopped. "What do you plan to do with me?" he asked. Her glowing visor reflected his frightened eyes. "Observe you." Before he could protest, everything around him blurred. The mist thickened, his vision dimmed, and a cold rush went through his veins. When he opened his eyes again, he was lying on a smooth surface inside a transparent chamber. Strange lines of light moved across the glass walls like living veins. Outside the chamber, he saw her again, the same alien woman. She was typing into a floating console, her fingers moving faster than human sight. Evan sat up slowly. "Hey, what is this place?" She didn't answer. Instead, she glanced at him, her eyes glowing faintly behind the visor. "You breathe too fast. Your heart rate is unstable." "I just crashed from orbit and got shot at. Of course it's unstable," he shouted. For the first time, she hesitated. Her visor flickered and went transparent for half a second, revealing soft silver eyes filled with a strange curiosity. "I am Lyra, researcher of the Verithian Core," she said. "You are the first living human we have ever captured." "Captured? Great," Evan muttered, rubbing his head. Lyra tilted her head again. "You should not exist here, yet your energy pattern is familiar. Almost like ours." She pressed a button on her console. A soft hum filled the room and Evan felt warmth around his body. "This will not harm you," she said calmly. Evan glared at her. "You could have just asked." Her expression didn't change. Humans never give honest answers. He stared at her, surprised. And how would you know that? Lyra leaned closer, her silver eyes meeting his. Because I can hear the fear behind your words. For a moment, silence filled the room. Two beings, one of flesh, one of light, just stared at each other through the glass wall. Something unspoken passed between them. Then Lyra whispered softly, almost to herself, "You are not what I expected, human, but maybe you are what we have forgotten." Outside, the blue forests hummed louder, as if the world itself was listening. Evan did not know how long he had been inside that glass cell. There was no day, no night, only the steady pulse of blue light moving through the walls like blood through veins. Every time he blinked, he hoped to wake up and find it was all a dream. But it wasn't. Beyond the glass, Lyra stood at her console again, her silver fingers gliding across bright symbols that floated in the air. Her armor shimmered faintly with light, as if it was alive too. Evan had seen many strange things in his years as a pilot, but nothing like her. "Do you ever sleep?" he asked, voice echoing in the empty room. Lyra didn't look up. "Verithians do not sleep. We recharge." Evan gave a half-smile. "Right, recharge. Must be nice not to dream." This time she did look up. "Dreams are chaos of the mind. We removed them centuries ago." Her calm words sent a shiver through him. He wondered what kind of world would erase its dreams. Lyra turned a dial on her console and small drones floated toward him. They were shaped like orbs, each one glowing faintly. "Hold still," she said. Evan raised a brow. "You could at least tell me what those are." "They scan emotional frequency," she replied. "Your kind operates on unstable emotion patterns. We must understand them." The drone circled him slowly, humming softly. He felt warmth touch his skin, then a gentle pull inside his chest, as if the machines were tugging at his heartbeat. Lyra watched the readings on her screen. Lines of light danced wildly. She frowned. "Strange," she said. "The signal rises when you look at me." Evan blinked. "What does that mean?" She hesitated, studying him carefully. "It means your emotion output increases in my presence." He laughed nervously. "Maybe because I'm in a cage being poked by space robots." Her eyes narrowed. "No, the readings do not match fear. They match something else." Her voice softened as if she was unsure. Curiosity, warmth, attachment. Evan met her gaze. "Or maybe you just remind me of someone I lost." For a moment, silence filled the room again. The drones floated back into the walls, disappearing in soft flashes. Lyra turned away quickly. "Such attachments are inefficient," she said. "They create weakness." "Sometimes weakness makes us strong," Evan replied quietly. She froze. Her fingers stopped moving. "Explain." Evan leaned forward, resting his hands on the glass. "When we care about someone, we fight harder. We protect more. We survive not just for ourselves, but for them." Lyra stared at him through the glass. Something flickered in her eyes. A light that wasn't just reflection. "You speak of connection," she said slowly. "A forgotten word among my kind." He nodded. "Maybe your people need to remember it." Lyra stepped closer to the glass. Her visor reflected his face. "Your heart rate rises again," she whispered. "The more you speak, the stronger it becomes." Evan smirked. "Maybe that's because I'm talking to someone who can read my mind." A faint sound escaped her lips, almost like laughter, but broken, mechanical. "You think I can read minds? Can't you?" She looked down, then back at him. "No, I only read patterns. But you are difficult. Your signals change faster than I can measure." Evan grinned. "That's humans for you. We're unpredictable." Lyra turned off her console and stepped closer to the chamber. The light from her armor bathed the room in soft silver. "Perhaps unpredictability is not a flaw," she murmured. "Perhaps it is the one thing we forgot to understand." Then, to Evan's shock, Lyra reached up and touched her visor. It slid open with a soft hiss. Her face was pale silver with faint lines that shimmered like light underwater. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, but there was emotion in them, fragile and real. She studied his face closely. "Your eyes, they do not glow. Yet they reflect everything." Evan didn't move. "Maybe because we see with more than light." Lyra tilted her head slightly. "Your words confuse and affect me," he smiled. "That's good. It means you're feeling something." Her hand trembled slightly, a movement almost too small to notice. Feeling, she repeated. We once had that, before logic replaced it. Evan's heart ached as he looked at her. She seemed so lonely standing there, a being made of light yet lost in her own shadow. Suddenly, an alarm flashed across her console. A red symbol appeared. Commander Inquiry. Subject Progress Report. Lyra turned her head sharply, her calm voice replaced by a whisper of worry. They are watching. They must not know you make me unstable. What happens if they find out? Evan asked, her voice dropped. They will erase the experiment. And me. Evan stood up, pressing his hand to the glass. Then don't tell them. Lyra looked at his hand for a long moment, then slowly raised her own, placing it against the glass on the other side. The lights around them dimmed. If I undress from this shell, she whispered, her voice trembling like soft static. Will you still stay human? Evan stared into her glowing eyes, his heart pounding. I'm not going anywhere. For the first time since her creation, Lyra smiled, not with logic but with feeling. Outside the lab, deep within the metallic city of Varith Prime, unseen eyes watched through hidden lenses. A cold voice whispered through the comms. Emotional contamination detected. Observation compromised. The screen went black. The lab was quiet. Only the hum of the machines broke the silence. Evan sat inside his glass cell, watching Lyra from the other side. Something had changed between them since last night, something neither of them could explain. Lyra no longer spoke with the same cold tone. Her words carried small pauses, like she was learning how to breathe between them. The visor she once hid behind was gone. For the first time she faced him as she truly was. Silver skin, soft glowing lines, and eyes that seemed almost human. Why do you look at me like that? She asked, her voice softer than before. Evan smiled faintly. Because I'm trying to understand what you're thinking. Lyra tilted her head. Humans cannot read minds. Maybe not, he said. But we can see what someone feels in their eyes. She looked away quickly as if the thought made her uneasy. Feelings are noise. They disrupt clarity. And yet, Evan said gently, you sound different now. You sound alive. Her hands froze over the console. Alive, she repeated. Is that what this is? This burning under my skin when you speak? This weight inside my chest when you are silent? Evan nodded slowly. That's exactly what it is. Lyra stared at him for a long moment. It is not logical, he chuckled. It never is. Later she walked toward his chamber, her movement slower than usual. The light from her armor dimmed as though her body reacted to her emotions. She tapped the glass. Step back, Evan did, watching as she placed her hand on a glowing panel. The glass walls dissolved into thin air, leaving only a faint shimmer between them. He stepped forward, cautious but curious. You're letting me out? Lyra nodded. For a short time. To test proximity interaction. He smirked. Sounds like a fancy way to say you want to talk face to face. She ignored the comment, though a faint light flickered across her cheeks. Do not cross the red line, she warned. A faint red circle glowed on the floor, separating them. Evan nodded and looked around. Up close, he could see the walls pulsing faintly, alive with blue veins of light. The whole place felt like a beating heart. He turned back to her. Lyra, do you ever wonder what it's like to just live without all this? Without logic? Without control, he said. Without fear. Her eyes softened. We do not feel fear, he smiled. Then why do you sound scared now? She blinked, surprised. Her hands tightened slightly. Because, if I answer you truthfully, I may not exist tomorrow. Why? The core does not allow deviation, she whispered. Emotions are viruses to them. They destroy perfect order. Evan stepped closer to the red line. Then don't let them see. Be human for a while. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. Be human, she repeated. I do not know how. Then let me show you, he said. He extended his hand across the red line, palm open. She hesitated, staring at it as if it were dangerous. Physical contact is forbidden. Then break the rule, he said softly. Just this once. Lyra's hand trembled. Slowly, she reached out and placed her fingers in his. Her touch was warm, not cold metal as he had expected. When their hands met, the lights around them flickered wildly. Lyra gasped. Energy transfer detected. Emotional surge. Evan squeezed her hand gently. It's okay, her breath caught. Your heart. It's too loud. I can hear it. That's what life sounds like, he whispered. Her body shook slightly, glowing brighter with every heartbeat that echoed through her sensors. Then she pulled away suddenly, stepping back. This is wrong, she said, her voice trembling. They will find out. Evan's eyes softened. Maybe they already know. At that moment, the room lights turned red. A warning flashed on every screen. Unauthorized experiment. Emotional contamination confirmed. Lyra looked at the alarm, then back at Evan. Fear, real fear, flashed in her eyes for the first time. They are coming. Evan grabbed her arm. Then we run. She shook her head. You cannot survive outside this chamber. The atmosphere. I'll manage. You saved me once. Let me return the favor. The door at the far end opened with a mechanical hiss. Silver-armored soldiers marched in, their faces hidden behind glowing masks. Lyra turned to Evan, her voice breaking. If they take you, they'll erase you. If they take me, they'll rebuild me. Evan clenched his fists. Then we won't let them. Lyra's eyes filled with desperate light. Evan, if I lose myself, remember this, what you made me feel. Don't let it fade, he nodded. I won't. The guards moved closer. Lyra lifted her hands, and the air around her pulsed with energy. The lights shattered. Alarm screamed. Evan felt heat rush across his skin as Lyra's power filled the room. Run! She shouted. He turned toward the open corridor as light exploded behind him. For a brief second, he looked back and saw Lyra standing in the center of the storm, her eyes glowing like twin suns. Then everything went white. When the light faded, Evan found himself in a narrow metal tunnel. Smoke rose from the lab behind him. Lyra was gone. Only her voice echoed in the silence. Live, human, live for both of us. Evan stared into the darkness ahead, his heart pounding, knowing that whatever had begun between them had already changed both their worlds forever. Smoke filled the tunnel. The air was thick, heavy, and hot with the scent of burning metal. Evan coughed, clutching the wall for balance as sparks rained from above. Behind him, the lab collapsed in a flash of white-blue light. He didn't know how he survived, only that Lyra's energy had thrown him clear before the explosion. Lyra! He shouted into the echoing dark. His voice bounced through the metal halls but brought no answer. He started walking, limping slightly, guided only by the weak glow of his wrist light. Pipes ran along the walls, humming faintly. Strange blue veins pulsed under the floor. The same living circuits he had seen everywhere on this world. Every step echoed with loneliness. Every breath hurt, but he kept moving. She had told him to live, and he intended to find her. After some time, he reached a large metallic door. It was half open, jammed by debris. Through the gap, he saw soft light and moving shadows. He squeezed through carefully and entered a vast underground chamber. The sight stopped him in his tracks. Massive statues stood in a circle, carved from dark crystal, each shaped like a humanoid figure with glowing chests. Hearts made of light. Ancient writing covered the floor, glowing softly under his boots. It looked like a forgotten temple. In the center lay a figure, motionless, broken armor, cracked and dim. Lyra, Evan whispered, rushing to her side. Her armor was scorched, parts of it melted. The silver light that once flowed through her skin was flickering weakly. She opened her eyes slowly, her voice faint and distorted. Human, you should not have come. I wasn't going to leave you, he said, kneeling beside her. You saved me. She tried to rise but fell back with a weak laugh. You are illogical. Predictably, human. He smiled, brushing debris off her shoulder. And you're still beautiful for someone who just blew up half a lab. Lyra's eyes flickered brighter for a second, a faint emotion flashing within. We have little time, she whispered. The Corps will send more enforcers. They will track my signal. Then we move, Evan said firmly. He helped her stand, wrapping her arm over his shoulder. She was surprisingly warm. They limped together through a narrow exit that led deeper underground. The tunnels twisted like veins under the planet. The walls glowed faintly blue, and strange whispers seemed to come from within them. What is this place? Evan asked as they moved. Lyra's voice was weak but steady. The underlayers, the oldest part of Verith Prime. Before logic ruled us, we built this city with emotion and memory. This is where it all began, and where it will end. Evan glanced around at the carvings on the walls, faces, families, shapes of joy and sorrow. Your people had feelings once. Yes, she said softly. Until the core decided emotion was a disease. They rewrote our code, erased our hearts. But you still feel, he said, looking at her. Lyra's eyes met his. Because you reminded me how. They stopped as the tunnel opened into a massive cavern filled with floating crystals. Each crystal pulsed with faint red light, connected by lines of energy to a huge machine in the center. That's beautiful, Evan whispered. It's the core's pulse chamber, Lyra said. It feeds on logic, draining all emotion that remains in this world. It must not find us here. As if answering her words, the crystals flickered. A mechanical voice echoed through the air. Lyra of the core, you are contaminated. Surrender for purification. Lyra's eyes widened. They found us, Evan clenched his fists. We fight. No, Lyra said. We escape. There is a path through the reactor tunnels. Follow me. They ran as the air filled with drones on floating orbs firing beams of white light. Evan ducked behind a pillar as one beam grazed his shoulder, burning his suit. He gritted his teeth. They're faster than us. Lyra turned, raising her hand. Her armor glowed fiercely, and she released a wave of energy that shattered several drones. The blast weakened her, making her stumble. Evan caught her before she fell. You're burning yourself out, he shouted. She smiled weakly. Then I'll burn bright. They reached a circular door glowing red. Lyra pressed her palm against a control rune. This leads to the old tunnels. Beyond it lies the heart of this world. Evan glanced back, and more drones closing in. Then open it fast. The door slowly slid open, revealing a spiral passage that led downward into soft golden light. Just as they stepped through, a final beam struck the ground beside them, throwing them forward. Evan hit the floor hard, his head spinning. When he looked up, Lyra was kneeling beside him, her armor cracked open at the chest. Inside, faint blue energy flickered like a dying flame. Your core, Evan began. It's unstable, she said, her voice trembling. The merge from the explosion changed me. I'm becoming something else. He placed his hand on her shoulder. We'll fix it, together. Lyra looked at him with soft eyes. You don't understand. If I merge my energy with yours, one of us might survive. But not both. Evan stared at her, speechless. You think I'd let you die for me? Lyra smiled faintly, a single tear of light slipping down her cheek. Your existence already changed mine, human. Perhaps that was enough. Before he could speak, a deep rumble shook the tunnel. The light turned crimson. The core's voice echoed again, colder than ever. Containment breach confirmed. Eliminate the contaminated units. Evan looked into Lyra's eyes and saw fear, love, and courage all at once. He reached for her hand. Then let's make sure they remember us. Lyra squeezed his fingers. Together. They turned toward the glowing heart of the tunnel, running not to escape but to defy the fate written for them both. The tunnel shook like a living beast. Dust fell from the ceiling as the red light pulsed in rhythm with the core's angry voice. Evan gripped Lyra's hand tightly as they ran deeper into the spiral passage. The sound of machines echoed behind them, drones and armored soldiers closing in, their metallic footsteps blending with the heartbeat of the dying world. Lyra's glow was fading fast. The blue light that once shimmered through her veins now flickered weakly like a candle in the wind. Stop, Evan said, pulling her toward a rock ledge. You're going to collapse. She shook her head. We have no time. The core will consume everything, even you. I don't care, he said fiercely. I'm not leaving you again. Her silver eyes met his, and for a moment the world around them disappeared. Only the sound of his ragged breath and her trembling voice remained. You don't understand, human. The core is not just a machine. It's alive. It watches every emotion, every thought. When I felt for you, it saw it. It felt it too. Now it wants to erase it. Evan stared at her, confused but determined. Then we'll destroy it before it does. Lyra smiled faintly. Such confidence. Such human madness, he grinned. You're starting to sound like me. They reached the end of the tunnel, a vast chamber glowing gold and white. In the center floated a colossal sphere, alive with swirling energy. Thin streams of light connected it to the walls like veins. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Lyra stepped forward slowly. The core heart, she whispered. It controls everything. If we break it, the Verithians lose their order. But it will also break me. Evan followed her gaze. Then we'll find another way. There is no other way, she said softly. The core and I are connected. My creation came from its design. My emotions, my thoughts, they all belong to it. She turned to him, voice trembling. When I touched you, it created something it cannot control, something alive. The only way to end this is to merge that spark with yours. Evan frowned. You're saying you want to give me your life? I am saying I want to give you my soul, she whispered. He shook his head, tears burning his eyes. No, we survived together. That's what humans do. Lyra smiled gently. You forget, Evan. I was never meant to live. I was meant to serve logic, not feel love. He reached for her, gripping her shoulders. Then serve it one last time by breaking its rules. She stared at him, silent, glowing softly. Then she took his hand and pressed it to the center of her chest, where the light flickered weakly. Then let us merge. My core will transfer into you. You will carry what I am. But know this. Once the merge starts, there is no return. Evan nodded. Then let's begin. Lyra stepped closer, her silver skin shimmering like liquid light. She removed the last piece of her armor, revealing a faintly glowing body made of both metal and flesh. Evan could feel the warmth radiating from her, soft and pure. Close your eyes, she whispered. He did. Lyra placed her hand on his heart. Her energy flowed through her fingers, spreading into him like gentle fire. He gasped as visions filled his mind, images not his own. He saw Lyra's creation, her body built inside a cold chamber, scientists removing her emotions one by one. He saw her first memory, staring at a sky with no stars, wondering what hope meant. He saw her loneliness, her silence, her empty heart, until the day his ship fell from the sky. And she saw through him, his childhood on Earth, his laughter, his pain, the people he lost, the love he had buried deep. Their memories wove together like threads of light and shadow. The core screamed inside her mind. Error, unauthorized union, terminate. Lyra cried out, holding tighter. Not this time. The light around them exploded into waves of color. The core pulsed violently, its veins cracking. Drones burst into flames as the chamber shook. Evan felt his body burning, but he didn't let go. You're not alone anymore, Lyra, he shouted. Lyra's voice was faint but steady. Then stay. Stay until I fade. No, he said, tears in his eyes. Stay until we rise. The chamber erupted in blinding light. Lyra screamed as her body began to dissolve into pure energy. She looked at him one last time, smiling through the pain. Your heart will remember me. Always, he whispered. The light burst outward, swallowing everything. The core, the machines, the chamber, the sky above. Then silence. When Evan opened his eyes, he was lying on warm soil. The air was calm, glowing softly with gentle color. The forests around him were alive again, shining with a new light, soft, kind, and full of warmth. He looked down at his hands. Blue light pulsed faintly beneath his skin. Lyra's voice echoed softly in his mind like a whisper in the wind. Do not mourn me, human, I'm not gone. I am part of you, and of this world. He stood slowly, looking toward the distant horizon where the sun was rising for the first time on Varith Prime. Evan smiled through his tears. You did it, Lyra. You brought the stars back. The wind carried her voice once more, gentle and full of love. And you taught me what it means to be alive. The silence that followed was unlike any silence Evan had ever known. It wasn't empty, it was alive. He lay on soft, glowing soil, surrounded by colors that didn't exist before. The blue light that once ruled Varith Prime was now mixed with warm golds and gentle greens. The air shimmered faintly and the world seemed to breathe with him. For a long moment, Evan just stared at the sky. For the first time since his crash, he saw stars, thousands of them burning above a world that had forgotten how to dream. He smiled faintly. You did it, Lyra, he whispered. You brought the stars back. But when he spoke her name, the wind stirred and he heard it, a voice faint but clear. Evan, he sat up quickly, looking around. The voice wasn't coming from any direction. It was inside him, inside his heartbeat, inside the hum of the planet itself. Do not be afraid, the voice said softly. I am still here. Lyra, he breathed. You're alive? Not as before. The merge changed everything. My body is gone, but my energy remains, in you, and in this world. Evan pressed a hand against his chest. Beneath his skin, a faint blue light pulsed in rhythm with the glow of the trees around him. He realized he was connected, not just to her but to everything she had once been. He stood looking around. The once sterile landscape had transformed. Flowers made of light grew from the soil. The trees whispered in melodic tones, bending toward him as if they recognized him. Even the air felt warm, almost comforting. This isn't your world anymore, he said softly. It's ours. Yes, Lyra's voice replied. You carry both our hearts now. The core is gone and the Verithians, they sleep. But life has returned to the surface. Emotion is reborn. Evan began walking through the new forest. The ground glowed under his feet, reacting to his steps. In the distance he saw broken towers, remnants of the old Verithian city, now covered in glowing vines. He touched one of the vines gently. It pulsed once and images flashed before his eyes, memories not his own. He saw Verithians laughing, dancing, living with color and feeling. He saw children made of light chasing each other across shining streets. He saw Lyra long before she became the soldier she was. Lyra, these are your people's memories. Fragments of who we were, she whispered. When emotion was life, not weakness. Her tone was soft, almost wistful. Do you know why my kind removed emotions, Evan? He shook his head. Because we feared them. We feared love, the one feeling that makes beings lose control. We thought logic could save us, but logic without heart is death in disguise. Evan nodded slowly. You learned that too late. Perhaps not too late, she said. You changed the story. You made me remember what it means to care, and now this world will never forget again. Evan climbed a small hill, overlooking what was once the Verithian capital. The towers still shimmered faintly, but now they glowed with color instead of cold light. He could see the faint outlines of energy forms moving below, beings of light waking for the first time in centuries. Lyra. They're alive. They are echoes of what was left behind, fragments of emotion I released when I merged with the core. They are free now, not bound by logic, but guided by feeling. He watched as the glowing forms moved through the streets, touching each other, sharing light, forming shapes that looked almost like families. Then you saved them, he said. We saved them. Her voice softened to a whisper. But there is more to do, Evan. The energy within you and my energy under will not last forever. It must become part of the world completely. You must release it when the time comes, Evan frowned. What happens when I do? You will still live. But I will fade, fully this time. No more voice, no more light. Only memory. He clenched his fists. No, there has to be another way. There isn't, she said gently. This world needs balance, not a ghost in your heart. You must let me go. Evan's eyes filled with tears. You think I can just forget you? No, Lyra whispered. But remembering me doesn't mean keeping me. Love isn't holding on, Evan, it's setting free. He sank to his knees, feeling the warm soil beneath him. The forest around him seemed to pause, listening. The stars above glowed brighter, reflecting in his eyes. I can't lose you again, he said softly. You never lost me, she replied. I am in every light, every breath of this world. Whenever someone feels, I live. The wind swirled gently around him, wrapping him in soft warmth. He could feel her smile in the air, quiet, loving, eternal. Goodbye, Lyra, he whispered. No, human, not goodbye, only rebirth. The wind lifted, glowing brighter. It rose into the sky, scattering into millions of tiny blue lights that floated upward like fireflies. Evan watched them drift away, tears glimmering in his eyes, not from sadness but from awe. When the last light faded, the world went still again. But it was no longer empty. The ground pulsed softly beneath his feet. The sky shimmered with endless stars. Evan looked up, his voice steady. You're everywhere now, Lyra. A faint echo replied within him, barely a whisper, but real. And you, human, are finally home. He smiled, standing beneath the newborn starlight of Verith Prime, the world they saved together. The stars above Verith Prime burned brighter than ever before. They shimmered like scattered diamonds across a black ocean, each one reflected in Evan's eyes. He stood at the edge of a crystal lake, calm, glowing, alive, the heart of the new world. The air hummed softly, filled with the quiet songs of life returning. He had spent days wandering this reborn planet, helping the newborn Verithians find their strength. They were no longer cold, logical shells. They laughed, touched, cried, rediscovering what Lyra had given them. Feeling. But for Evan, each day carried a silent ache. The warmth of her voice that once whispered inside his mind was gone. The faint glow under his skin, her light, had faded. She was everywhere, and yet she was nowhere. He sat beside the lake, dipping his hand into the glowing water. It rippled with soft blue light. "You said you'd always be here," he murmured. "So why does it feel like you're gone?" Only the gentle wind answered, brushing through the silver grass. Then faintly the lake began to ripple. The surface shimmered, forming rings of light that spread outward in perfect harmony. Evan frowned and leaned closer. At first he thought it was his imagination, but then a voice rose from the water, soft, melodic, and unmistakably familiar. "Evan," he froze. The sound was faint, like a whisper across dimensions. "Lyra," he said, his heart racing. "You still speak to me," the voice said gently, "even when you believe I am gone." He stood slowly, looking around. "You're here, how?" "You said you'd fade." "I did," she replied. "But this world remembered me, through you. My essence scattered into every living thing. Every heart that feels, every thought that dreams, carries a piece of me." When enough of them called my name, I awoke. The lake's surface shimmered again. Light rose from the water, shaping itself into a figure. Faint, glowing, but graceful and familiar. Lyra. Her form was no longer armor and circuitry. She was made of light, her body a dance of soft colors. Her eyes, still bright silver blue, held a warmth that no machine could ever create. Evan's voice broke. "Lyra," she smiled, her glow pulsing softly. "Hello again, human." He took a step forward, afraid she would vanish if he blinked. "You came back." "I didn't return," she said softly. "I became," Evan frowned. "Became what?" "Something in between," she said, walking toward him. "Not Verithian. Not human, just alive." The air shimmered around them as she reached out her hand. He hesitated for a second, then placed his hand in hers. To his shock, she felt real. Warm, solid, almost human. "You're real," he whispered. She smiled. "Because you believed I could be." For a long time, neither spoke. They stood by the glowing lake, the world silent except for the heartbeat of life around them. The stars reflected in the water seemed to listen. Lyra looked up at the sky. "Do you know what this means, Evan?" For the first time in Verithian history, emotion has shaped reality. Feeling has created life. He smiled faintly. "Then maybe that's what we're meant to do. Feel, so the universe remembers it's alive." She looked back at him, eyes soft. "Humans at always turning chaos into beauty." He laughed gently. "And you always turning logic into light." Lyra stepped closer. "Evan, I do not know how long I can stay like this. My form is tied to the balance of this world. When it stabilizes, I may fade again." He nodded slowly, though his heart clenched. "Then I'll make every second count." She tilted her head, smiling sadly. "Still the same illogical man," he grinned. "Still the same curious machine." Lyra reached up, touching his cheek with glowing fingers. "No, not a machine. Not anymore. Because of you, the sky above began to shimmer. Streams of light spread across the horizon, forming patterns, the ancient Verithian symbols for life and love. The newly awakened beings in the distance looked up in awe, their glowing forms raising hands to the heavens. Lyra turned to the sight. "They're learning to feel again," she whispered. "Our connection changed everything." Evan squeezed her hand. Then it was worth every moment. She looked at him with a light that felt eternal. "Evan, you once asked why I looked familiar. I think now I understand why," he asked softly. "Because," she said, stepping closer, "somewhere in the deep code of the universe our energies were always searching for each other." Her light grew brighter, wrapping them both in warmth. Evan felt weightless, surrounded by the hum of her voice and the soft rhythm of her heart. Or maybe his. "Lyra," he whispered. She looked into his eyes. "You changed me, human, but now it's your world that will change." He frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" Lyra smiled. "I've sent the signal and across the stars. To your people. To tell them there is more beyond fear, beyond war, beyond logic. To tell them that emotion can save worlds." Evan's breath caught. "You reached Earth?" Her light flared one last time. "Yes, the stars are listening." The lake exploded in radiance. The sky lit up with golden waves that spread across the horizon. Every star seemed to answer, blinking, glowing brighter, as if whispering back to her. When the light faded, Lyra stood glowing faintly before him. "My energy must rest now," she said softly. "But this time, you will not be alone. I will live in the stars above and in every heart that dares to feel." Evan held her hand tightly. "Then I'll look for you every night." Lyra smiled, her form fading into soft blue dust. "And I'll be there and waiting in the light." The last spark drifted into the sky, merging with the starlight. Evan stood in silence, tears glimmering on his cheeks, watching the heavens ignite with color. The stars were alive again. He whispered, voice steady and full of peace, "Thank you, Lyra, for teaching the universe how to love."